maneuvering a little bit, but we'll figure it out.
Because do you know those people or they knew?
I do. So if you can get names, do me a favor.
Someone called me actually, so I was wondering if that's her.
See if you can, because it looks like I think Norma Sloan knows them. Ask Norma for their names.
Yeah.
I hope so too. All right. So, Roger, how you doing? Good. Good to see you. I wear it tomorrow. It's my bar mitzvah portion. Figure for Max.
Nice.
You know, show him some love.
For sure. I have to write this away.
No, the other thing I was going to tell you is you can
At least write down like ideas more than points.
because it might be, you know, I know it's a bit of a high pressure situation to do off the cuff. So you do whatever feels most comfortable to you. And I think maybe as an exercise, at some point in this, right, you'll try one without writing and see how it feels. Right? Because I think you absolutely, you got that. You know.
I got like a general idea of what I would want to say.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I thought about that. I'd like to write out a few parts.
All right. Ready, radio. Yeah.
Is there ever a moment that you feel okay with like something not liturgical there, like not feeling up back to school? It's like you know, it was a moment here or something. It's like I know it like this is place like it's like a little bit something more creative that isn't necessarily like in the liturgy.
Propose some idea? Yeah, the main reason why it tends to be Oseh Shalom is because that's what's actually the liturgical piece. Yeah, they're all part of that, whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that's the only way to go about it. So
that's kind of how I usually default. Is
yeah. But what I'd say is, depending on how experimental you're going, right? Summertime is like bigger situation, so it may feel better opportunity to try, or not.
So I think it's more like comfortability with you and like the group.
But I think it's another interesting thing you can actually talk about in conversation, during owning and stuff. If it comes up organically, ask. All right. Good. All right. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom. All right, we're still getting used to the place. So Bonnie and Ira, you can still hear me in the back there? Good sign. Excellent. Well, it's wonderful to see all of you. It's wonderful to be in our beautiful sanctuary. And lest you wonder, right, 3 weeks in, is it starting to lose any of its luster? Am I any less excited? No. Every time I go up to the building, I'm excited, and I'm especially excited to see all of you. And it's the one thing I have to figure out. It's a nut I have to crack. Is for anybody who's watching at home to be able to see who's here at least once before the service, so you get a sense of, because otherwise they think I'm talking to the wall as far as they're concerned. But I promise you, this is a beautiful wall if that's what I'm doing. So really, a wonderful week. We're happy to have Cantor Kevin back with us. And again, continuing from last week, we were really grateful, and he happens to be catching him in a yawn, but Julian Morris, who is Link Morris Link, I should say, actually, who is going to help us out a bit during the summer, we're hoping, which is really great. So we're going to slowly bring him in, but he did a great job. And also, thanks very much to the Golden family. We have a brand new, beautiful piano, and hopefully sounds as good as it looks. And, just glad to be with all of you and celebrating Shabbat. So beginning next week, I need one more week to do this. We're going to get back to our old tradition of giving out the honor of lighting the candles to others. We need to get our little stand to make it easier, otherwise it's a bit of a reach from there. But tonight, I'm going to do it ourselves, but I'm going to invite everyone to sing along with us in the blessing part, which is on page 120. I'll do the lighting piece. Never sure around here. There it is.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what this one is. This is
That's
like
cool.
Lightsaber style. Okay, good. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Good. I heard one amen. We got more amens to that. Amen. 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 Okay, we're going to turn to page 130, and we'll begin Kabbalat Shabbat, very top of the page.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, nekad mafana v'todah. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, v'zmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai.
Turn now to page 131.
ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ.
We'll turn now to page 132, or Zarua, at the very bottom of the page. Where's Zarua? Yeah.
Or Zarua LaTzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua LaTzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua LaTzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. U'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua LaTzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. U'yishrei lev simcha. Ya la la la, ya la ya la, ya la ya la, ya la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la ya la la.
We'll turn now to page 134, very top of the page, Zamru Ladonai.
Zamru LaDonai bechinor, bechinor vekol zimra, b'chatzotzrot vekol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, yiram hayam u'melot, tevel veyoshveva, keharot imcha u'chaf yachad, harim yiranenu, lifnei Adonai kiva, lishpot haaretz, lishpot tevel v'tzedek, ve'amim v'meisharim. Yiram hayam u'melot, tevel ve'yoshveva, neharot imcha u'chaf yachad, harim yiranenu.
We'll turn now to page 135, Romamu, which is the last Hebrew paragraph towards the middle of the page.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'har kodsho.
All right, so we're going to turn to Lachadodi on page 138, and just checking we're doing, right? First,
do it
second.
all.
You do the whole? You want to do
Want to
the
do
whole?
it all? Oh,
The people speak. The rabbi listens. So does that feel cool, Julian? You got that? Okay, good. Then you guys rock. Take it away.
let's do it. וחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. וחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. שמור וזכור ודיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו לתפארת ולתהילה. וחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. וחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך אף אחד. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכר, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. וחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. וחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. תתנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי. על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קרבה אל נפשי גאלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת לקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 בני שבת מקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. התעוררי כי באורך, קומי אורי אורי אורי, שיר דברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תמי בך יחסו. עניי עמי ונפתח עיר אל תילה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. והיו לשים תוצאי רחקו כל מבלייך, יסי עלייך אלוהי. hayit kimsos chatan al kala lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat mekapela lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat mekapela yamin u'shmol tifrotzi et Adonai Paritzi ayani ben parti ben ishmecha v'nagila lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat mekapela lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat mekapela boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzola toch emunei am segula boi chala chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat mekapela chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat mekapela yaina 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 da 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 yaina 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 da da yaina yaina da 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 da
All right. We're still getting back into the groove. It's good, but
We're getting there.
But never leave Myra behind. That's the one thing we can never do. Leave Myra behind. It's very good. All right.
Goes fast, huh?
Okay. As we find our seats again, we'll turn to page 140. Again, page 140, Psalm 92. Yes. Question. Okay. So you can play Underwell.
I've done it, yeah.
It sounds good. So the idea of this actually is that you're supposed to not face the back of the room, but to face the door that you walked in through, because the mental image of Lecha Dodi is that you're imagining the presence of Shabbat personified walking through the door. Now, having said that, when you go to most shuls, people's instinct, no matter what, is to turn and face towards the rear of the room. And in our shul, it actually works in almost any direction, because historically, the entrance to the temple was that back of the sanctuary. So you just follow your instinct on it, but if you're following the letter of the idea, you'd be facing this way from this point on. But, in this congregation, as if I'm going to tell you guys what to do. So, but very good question. I'm glad you stopped me. Very good. All right, Cantor, back to you.
Tzadik katamar yifra kesherez balevanon yizkeh shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim yihiu lehagid כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת בו.
We'll turn now to the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. Yitkadal veyitkadash shemei Rabba
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'gala ba'gala u'vizman kariv ve'imeru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach Le'alam le'almayam Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitbar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekucha Brichu Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Tamiran be'alma ve'imeru. Amen. We'll rise in body or spirit for the Baruch Hu on page 146. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. We'll turn now to page 148. We'll read together in English at the bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב
Amen. We'll turn now to page 150. We'll read together in English at the bottom of the page. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please join us on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Let's read together on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. As we turn to page 158, Mi Chamocha at the top of the page.
כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נעתר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושי פלא, נורא תהילות עושי פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל 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 ישראל.
Amen. We'll turn now to Hashkivenu on page 160.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. Turn now to page 162, Vishamru at the very top of the page.
Vishamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש.
Now invite us to rise in body or in spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. As always, from there we'll continue silently. If please go at your own pace, and if at the end you're still standing, you may be seated. Again, page 164.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Say shalom, shalom bimrama, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Hu ya'aseh shalom עלינו ועל כל ישראל, אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן ועל כל ישראל
We'll turn now to page 371 to offer our Mishaberach, our healing prayer for this evening. We'll begin by thanking those in our community who are in need of a little bit of that extra love tonight. Bensi Tepper, Allison Luckman, Malka Bat Chaya Sura, Michael Klinghofer, Amy and Warren Cass, Rivka Bat Rachel, Leah Bat Naomi, Gedalia Ben Sylvia, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sivi Devora Bat Francis, Muriel Hirsch, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Shelley Newmark, Diana Axelrod, Gabriella Spicer, Barbara Kushner, David Kyle Klopman, Lorraine Davis, Devora Batsima, Rebecca Snyder, Jeffrey Miller, Shelley Lyman, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Karen Layton, Debbie Bookvar, Carol Javna, Lori Nisanoff, Rebecca Rubin, Deborah and John Fogarty, Kate Kessler, Hilda Mintz, John Mahoney, Kim Birnbaum, Moshe Ben Yosef, Moishe Jakobowitz, Ann Baker, David Ben Barzilai, Dr. Samuel Moskowitz, Tikva Bat Avram, Andrea Klausner, Jake Curie, Farah Sherwin, Barbara Schwab, Alan Zaretsky, Steve Roberts, Peter Cohn, Toby Spitz, and Gail Gambino. In addition to the names that we just read, if there's anyone else thinking of anyone they want to add tonight, we'll start on this side of the room and work toward the rear, and then this side of the room. And as always, please just raise a hand so I make sure not to miss anyone.
Greenfield, Tom Crailstein, Dave Robbins. Mike Erkowitz.
Robin Gold and Aaron Besser.
We'll join together with Cantor Kevin, page 371 in the middle of the page.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Sheberach imotenu mikor haberacha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Take a break. All right, so we'll start with a little bit of a quiz, a little question. What is the most recent holiday to be added to, I'll say, the Hebrew calendar beyond just the Jewish calendar? What is the most recently created holiday in our calendar? Okay, I hear a lot of mostly mumbling. Any? Okay, Roger Matloff, say it louder. Okay, Yom Yerushalayim. Yom Yerushalayim. Okay, which means Jerusalem Day. Jerusalem Day. So why is it the most recently added? Because it is the most recent time in which there was cause for the creation of a national holiday. Okay, so beyond Yom HaZikaron, Remembrance Day, beyond Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Day, beyond Yom HaAtzmaut, Israeli Independence Day, and a number of other national holidays that exist in Israel but have been collectively observed by us even in the diaspora, Yom Yerushalayim is one of the newest precisely because until 1967, until the Six-Day Wars, well, not the concluding moments, but during the Six-Day War, until the liberation of the Old City and the Western Wall, until, quite frankly, the liberation of that entire section of Jerusalem, Jerusalem was out of the hands of the Jewish people for most of the last 2,000 years. Now, if we don't know just how primary Jerusalem is to our identity as Jews, right, in Israel and outside, you only need open up your prayer book, right? The Zion, the word Zionism, its origin point, right? That word Zion refers to specifically to Yerushalayim and to a specific part of Yerushalayim, right? Our heart, in essence, is in this city, which today, as we know, is a complicated place, a place in which not just only us, but a number of peoples see that central space as sacred. But in 1967, you have to understand, for the previous decades, right, since 1948, an armistice line, in essence, existed. So our institution that is training Kevin, trained myself, HUC's campus in Jerusalem, is located essentially on that line. It has bullet holes in the outside of its building from when the Jordanians used to sit on the top of the old city walls and take shots across the line. So to understand what Yom Yerushalayim means, not again just to Israelis, but to Jews around the world, to some degree you have to have lived through that point in time. But me, for example, right, I was born in 1981, long after it had been firmly in Israeli hands. But in my home to this day is a framed copy of one of the Israeli newspapers from that day, stating unequivocally in big print, Degel Tzion al Har Habayit, right, that you can see the flag of Israel now resting on Har Habayit, which is the area that we refer to really as where the temple stood, where the Western Wall is today, and beyond. So one can already assume that this is a day, of course, of great celebration for our people, and especially for those that are in Israel, but a day of certainly conflict in many cases for those who also see Yerushalayim as central to their identity. In recent years, more so than certainly in its history, definitely more so than has been in any time that I can recall, this holiday has also become fraught with violence, primarily the result of one march, a Degel march, a flag march, that goes through the old city, in which people wave, as you can imagine, right, Israeli flags, proudly so. For a really long time in my childhood, this was not a flashpoint day. It was certainly a day in which, understandably, the Palestinian community was not out celebrating, but certainly was a day in which it passed, in which you rarely heard about there being any significant violence, certainly nothing that anyone would probably pay any attention to. But the route of this particular march goes through the Damascus Gate and through the Muslim Court. So it's not simply a matter of being, for example, in the predominantly Jewish section of the Old City, nor is it about going through, again, the gates. The gates matter a lot to an old city like Yerushalayim, in which different gates enter to different parts of the city, which itself is divided up. And so in this space, you have hundreds, I think actually at this point, probably thousands of very proud Israelis walking through a Muslim quarter, through, an area in which, again, most of the shopkeepers, most of the people who live in that space are not Israeli or not Jewish. So you can imagine, again, that this is the creation of a certain kind of tension, but in the last few years in particular has taken on really a new level. And this week in which Yom Yerushalayim was played out, even before the day came, was a cause of great concern for many Israelis on all sides of the spectrum, concerned about the potential of violence to come. And certainly there was quite a lot of it. But not all of the violence was physical. Some of the violence really took the form actually of spoken words. And what was said by some of the participants on this march to the predominantly, again, Muslim, if not Arab, population of the section of the old city that they were marching through, which led to altercations. It led to destruction of property. It led to actually Jew-on-Jew violence from those that were protesting against it to those that were participating in it. If you haven't followed this week, and when you go home after Shabbat and you open up your computers and you look, let's just say I'm actually treating it very lightly. Most of the things that were being said in that space are not things that I would repeat in this space, let alone on our Shabbat, for many, many different reasons. But of course, it hits to the core for me, and I think for a lot of us, but most of us, again, who have been lucky enough to visit Yerushalayim, in your image, this is the city of gold. This is the city of peace. Its literal name means city of peace. And yet to see this play out, it seems quite the opposite. So the question is, how do we understand this holiday? How do we reconcile with what we're seeing? How do we not overreact to it? And how do we not underreact to it? So for me, the reason why this time of year especially, this kind of behavior and this kind of circumstance is especially poignant, is that we are in a period of time not so far from now in which we will start looking towards the observance of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is the commemoration of the destructions of the temples, in which we sit literally on the floor, we read from the book of Echa, we remind ourselves of the destruction of Jerusalem in our most painful state. And what do the rabbis say was the cause of the destruction? It was not the hands of the Babylonians, it was not the hands of the Romans, but it was the result of what they termed sinat chinam, a kind of hatred that has no basis, has no purpose, has no intention other than hatred itself. And to see this playing out in the streets of Yerushalayim again, for those that pay attention to history and pay attention to the teachings of our sages, can only look upon with a certain kind of deep concern. Are we seeing essentially what played out 2,000 years ago playing out yet again? And of course, we don't even want to fathom or imagine that that reality exists, because if that's the case, the outcome is nothing that any of us would ever celebrate or hope for. Those of you that may know, for the last several years, one of the classes that I teach on a mostly weekly basis has been a very close, slow reading of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel's book, The Prophets. Heschel's book on the prophets was actually based off of his doctoral thesis written before the Holocaust, in which he tries to express what it is the prophetic voice, the prophets themselves, are meant to teach us in his day and age when he was writing it and to today. One of the sections we got to this week dealt with a particular challenge of the period of time in which the prophets lived, which was a question of how to determine who the real prophets were from the false prophets. In other words, who were truly delivering the word of God and who were standing up and saying they were speaking on God's behalf when who knows exactly where the source was coming from. So it speaks to this particular moment in one very key way, and I want to share with you a little bit of an excerpt of what he writes. He says as follows: sheer attachment to the people does not make a person a prophet. What motivates the prophet is God's attachment to Israel and Israel's failure to reciprocate. Israel in this case, really more specifically, Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. To save the country was the aim of their mission, but the mission itself was to reestablish the relationship between Israel and God. Okay, this is the preamble that sets the stage for his next words. Naive or vulgar patriotism, pandering to the natural instincts of the masses, the attitude of, quote, my country right or wrong, was precisely what the prophets condemned. Pure patriotism may be an apt characterization of the so-called false prophets. These reassuring seers of good things were minions of monarchs and favorites of the people. He continues, there is a prophetic ring in the words of Thomas Jefferson, who wrote in his notes on the state of Virginia, indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just. Now, what is Jefferson saying in that moment, and what is Heschel pointing to of all quotes? To understand, if we believe in a just God, a God that will mete out justice based on our behavior, woe to us that pay no attention to that behavior. In other words, the image of the super patriot, right, the super nationalist idea, what is really capturing the essence of the main pushers of the worst parts of this parade and the worst parts of Yom Yerushalayim, I'll put it in my own words. I see that in this description of the false prophets of the day that Heschel is referring to. Why primarily? Because, as he says, there's nothing wrong with being proud of who you are. Indeed, it's required. There is nothing wrong with being proud of your nation. Indeed, each one of us should be proud of the country we live in and our homeland across the sea. But there is a very different reality between that which is genuine, which is heartfelt, which takes into account multiple factors, and those that simply walk around, again, with, as he describes it, a naive or vulgar patriotism, and one that panders to the natural instincts of the masses. In other words, that which sounds good, feels good, but contains no balance. That which is pure celebration, but, for example, looks over the idea of stepping over another person in order to celebrate, or that requires the destruction of another person's property who doesn't look like you or pray like you in order to celebrate the liberation of Yerushalayim and the return of Jews to their sacred place. There is a very real way in which to celebrate this day, which again will not be celebrated by those on the other side of the line, certainly, but one that doesn't require us, again, to trample upon them in order to celebrate ourselves. And again, as I said, the violence that we saw this week was not just between Jews and Arabs, Jews and Palestinians. It was between Jews and Jews. It was between people who showed up to counter-protest, and it was even within people who were marching in the parade who felt that the most zealous were going overboard, and they themselves got attacked. This level of insanity, this level of focusing again on the wrong image of what Yom Yerushalayim was intended for, is in fact the basis of this concept of Sinat Chinam, this concept of what tore our people apart 2,000 years ago and plus, and which to some degree still tears our people apart. President Herzog, who, as I was just saying to Cantor Kevin before, I feel for because he was a longtime politician, leader in the labor movement, became the president of Israel because he was respected by all sides. The president of Israel, again, is an apolitical entity. It's the head of state. It's supposed to be above all the petty things. This poor man has had to be in the crossfire of every direction for the last couple of years since he took over the presidency. But he, every single time, has stepped up to the podium and used his opportunity as that head of state to remind us again of the core identity of the state of Israel, which we love so much. His whole speech is actually worth listening to, but to share a little, he says as follows: "The never-ending journey of Jerusalem has taught us as a society and a country that there is only one way for us to undertake this journey, and that is together. In particular on Jerusalem Day," he added, "we must cite the phrase from the Jewish sages that senseless hatred destroyed Yerushalayim. And I emphasize, unjustified hatred is not just a reason, but a consequence of itself." Say that again. Unjustified hatred, Sinat Chinam, is not just a reason, but a consequence of itself. And there are factors that lead to it. One of the pieces that you can observe if you see video of what took place is that the most zealous participants are all of a very particular age bracket. They are all of a younger constituency, to say the least. Youngest and most influenced by others. Whoever those kids are doing the things that they're doing them because their teachers, their parents, their community leaders are the ones who tell them to go out there and to do this, to yell slurs at people, to destroy shops, to hurt people of an elderly nature, to be disconsiderate of the needs, again, of an entire people. And as I said, this is not a sermon to say, don't celebrate Yom Yerushalayim. I certainly do. I certainly do. This is not a sermon to tell you not to wave the flag of Israel proudly. I certainly do. But I don't need to do it standing on top of someone else. I don't need to do it by destroying somebody else's life. I can celebrate and I can understand the tension of that celebration. But I hold myself and I hold our people accountable for what is done in our name, in our sacred space. And what breaks my heart, truly, is for all of the pages of Talmud that these young people are studying, all of the days they spend in the yeshiva. Clearly, none of them have been reading the prophets very carefully. Because if any of them had, if any of them could see that they are the bad guys in the story, and they are leading us down a path which we know does not lead anywhere good, it should shake every single one of us to our core. Loving Israel, as I do, and I hope you do as well, means precisely in these moments that we have to take up the prophet's voice. We don't have any left. There are no more prophets in our world in the way that there were in those days. No one single one of us is going to turn the tide, but a collection of our voices who stand up precisely in moments like this and say, we are proud of the state of Israel. We are proud of the fact that our people are back in Yerushalayim when for so long we could not even sniff the air. We are proud of the fact that there is cause for celebration, but to do so by going like this and blinding ourselves to the bad does not just ourselves a disservice, it does our future generations a disservice, because we are playing with a very serious fire here, and one that I don't ever want to see lit, let alone fanned. So while this is not the happiest sermon that I've ever given, it is one of the most important, and I hope that you will, if you didn't know that any of this was going on, after Shabbat, go and see. Understand that I'm not exaggerating or making it up. If anything, actually, I've toned down what took place. And to say to ourselves, what is it that we can do while still loving Israel, loving our people, loving everything that we do that is good, and still being willing to stand up and to say, this is not us. And if we don't stop it, no one else is going to. So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We're going to rise now as we mark, this is the last marking of the Omer together before the holiday of Shavuot next week. So we're on page 570, and you can join with me beginning at the top of the page. Hineni mukhan u'mezuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat ha'omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer.
Amen.
Hayom arba'a v'arba'im yom shehem shisha shavuot u'shnei yamim la'omer. Today marks 44 days, which is 6 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. We'll remain standing as we turn to page 586 at the bottom of the page, Aleinu L'Shabeach.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Now ask those in mourning, those observing yahrzeit, to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We think first of those who passed in our community in recent months: Martin Blake, Morty Schwatzky, Beverly Deshevsky, Sandy Greenwald, Dorothy Klein, Buddy Kossoff, Emmanuel Kiprios, David Lieberman, Norma Polsek, Marvin Schreier, Sandy Slip, Larry Wartor, Barbara Strasser, and David Weinstein. And Rita Weitzman and Yael Zerdar. We also mark the yahrzeit that occurred during the last week for Walter Adler, Ruth Bitterman, Martin Blake, Susan Davis, Henry Denker, Francine Abrams Gerstmann, Moreno Harav Arthur Gilbert, Natalie Gleichenhaus, Charles Goldman, Ava Hesse, Louis Katz, Harold Clapper, Ruth Krennick, Beatrice Kunkin, Emmanuel Kiprios, Maurice Levy, Sophie Pearl, and Faye White. In addition to those names that we just read, if anyone else is saying Kaddish for anyone we didn't mention. I'll invite the mourners to join with me on page 598, and if it is your custom to rise, you may do so at this time. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'li'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata v'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Zichronam li'ivracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This is what always happens when I give a very serious sermon, then everybody gets very serious. I understand it's a serious topic, but Shabbat is also celebration, so don't lose those smiles. You all look beautiful. So a few important announcements. First is, of course, to thank, well, where's Julian now? Julian, doing a great job catching up. This is great. You're going to do more, and we're very happy to have you. It brings a whole other layer to it, and it just makes us happy. And Julian's mom walked in at a certain point. Sally's right here, so everybody give Sally, credit. Original credit for talents. Very good. So please join us tomorrow morning for Shabbat services beginning at 9:30, in which we will celebrate the bar mitzvah of Max Greenwald. Most of you may not know Max, but he is a fantastic guy. Cantor Kevin's been working with him very closely. Even if you're not normally a Saturday morning person, these are the good times to show up, show up and support our young people. You're always telling me, I want to see more young people. Well, this is your opportunity, so put up, or I won't say the other words, but come here, join us at 9:30, even if you can't make it till 10, come at 10. We're very happy to have you. Also, a reminder, Torah study will be back. It's still on Zoom as of this week. We're hopefully getting our new tech in by next week, not the week after that, but that'll be on Zoom starting at 12 o'clock, led by yours truly. Also, as I mentioned, as we were ending our counting of the Omer, that means the holiday of Shavuot is coming up next week. So next Thursday evening, I hope you will join myself and possibly Cantor Kevin. We're working on that detail, which would be very cool. And our friends at the Jewish Center of the Hamptons and Rabbi Josh Franklin and Rabbi Cantor Deborah Stein. And then also this year adding our friend Rabbi Jan Urbach from the Conservative Synagogue of the Hamptons as well. So first time actually we're going to be able to do all four of us together. We're going to daven Ma'ariv for those that want to join us at 6:45 just before our Tikkun Leil Shavuot, our study session for the holiday of Shavuot begins. At 7 o'clock again this year. Once again, will be hosted at the Jewish Center. Next year, we will very proudly host it here in our sanctuary. We just weren't 100% sure at the time we made these plans that we would be here. So otherwise, we're really excited to share that experience with everyone. So just a reminder, registration is required. It's essential. If you're on Zoom, you have to register. If you're coming in person, you got to register for security reasons. So please let me know if you have any problems, questions. You've never been there, you don't know how to get there, please let me know. But certainly we're looking forward to a night of celebration and a night of learning. And then the next morning, Friday morning, 9:30, here, if you'd like to join me, and again, potentially Cantor Kevin, here in the sanctuary at 9:30 on Friday morning, or if you'd like to watch again on live stream, either on our website, YouTube, or Facebook. Reminder again that Shavuot services also include the service of Yizkor as well, the service of remembrance. So again, that is Friday morning next week at 9:30 Tikkun, the previous night, beginning at 6:45 for Ma'ariv, 7 o'clock for our Tikkun. Also to mark, the Temple Book Group is back, and for another great summer of learning with Ruth Joseph, our great facilitator. The first session will be Sunday, May 28th at 11 o'clock. Again, that's Sunday, May 28th at 11 o'clock. Please contact Ruth by email to let her know that you are participating so that you can receive the stories. We have those stories available for you in the office to pick up. Any questions? Find our executive director, Shelley, who's here in person, but you can also, you know how to find Shelley. You all know how to find Shelley. Just give her a little bit of a break this week. She's been working real hard. But, if you need anything related to this, by all means. And again, thank you, Ruth, for running our wonderful book group for all of these years. It's a great sign that the summer is upon us. Also, to remind everyone, this Sunday from 4 to 6 o'clock at the Old Whalers Social Hall, so back in our temporary housing, to join the Social Justice Committee and our partnership with the Children's Museum of the East End to pack backpacks for See Me Children's Museum children who will be going to camp this summer, who could use a little bit of extra help to make sure that summer is very special. So we thank our social justice leaders and everyone that's made the arrangements ahead of time. I hope you can join us from 4 to 6 this Sunday. If you're not able to join us physically, there may be other ways to help out Shelley or not. Okay, so if you donate $18 for supplies online, if you can't be here in person, somebody will help to fill that backpack. So again, we have a few more days left. Great thing to do to connect again to our holiday of Shavuot and a little bit of that sense of repair in the world when things go off. Try to do something good to help. Doesn't replace it, but helps bring a little bit of light into the world. I also want to say, so for those that are with us tonight, you can pick the flyers up closer to the door on your way out, in which we are celebrating the Road Forward Scholars, our second annual opportunity to celebrate this wonderful new addition to our community. A reminder again, the Road Forward Scholarship really helps to support the dreams of higher education for deserving local high school seniors, one from our community here at the Temple and one from the Pearson School right down the street. And Zehu? All the schools, says Vivian. Vivian knows. We are everywhere. We're not just in Sag Harbor. We're not just in Sag Harbor. And Julian, if I'm not mistaken, right, was our achiever last year, our first ever. We need to have a picture of you holding the award since you're the first one ever, Julian. That very well deserved for sure. Now this year, what's different about it is there's a great gathering Saturday, June 10th, from 5 to 7:30, the Bridgehampton Community House. Again, Bridgehampton Community House. A lot of great things going on. I'll let you read the flyer to see all of those things. Please do find a way to come and support. Very grateful to our sponsors, especially to our friend Jason Wiener and those at Almond Restaurant who will be supplying the food, which will be delicious and, again, for a very good cause. So please join us again, June 10th, 5 to 7:30 at the Bridgehampton Community House. Beyond that, just a couple other notes coming up this week. I am not here on Monday, so no Heschel class this Monday. And also, a Friday class will not be happening because it's Shavuos. But the Social Justice Committee will have its regular meeting at 5 o'clock, and Nida Mitzvah is meeting this week? Yes, Nida Mitzvah, 11:30. Ooh, a lot of announcements this week. That's what happens when we get towards the summer. And that is being, I think, considered still as far as, but our normal practice was Memorial Day as the shift, but I believe, right, Shelley, that's, okay, so the change to 6:30 begins then, is that not next week or 2 weeks? No, it's not 7. It hasn't been 7:30 actually for a while. No. Those that used to be 8 when I first got here, but that ain't happening anymore. So again, 6:30 start. But pay attention as always. Good exercise. Pay attention to your e-blasts because you'll get all the information that you need, tell you what to do. But I'm glad you asked, and we'll look forward to that change as it goes. Okay, Cantor, you got a closing song for us this evening?
Of course we do.
Okay, good.
Page 660. Give you guys a second to flip to it. And I think I'm going to do something different than normal. I think everyone has heard Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. You even said the Jerusalem of Gold in your speech. And so something that jumps out at me always is really just the beauty of this poetry. I mean, I think you all know the Hebrew. You know how, at least you've heard that, but I don't think we frequently look at the English and how that goes. So just very quickly. The mountain air is clear as wine, and the fragrance of pine is carried in the evening breeze with the sound of bells. In the slumber of tree and stone, captive within her dream, is the city which sits deserted, and the wall at its heart. And you know the chorus. But now just look at the second verse while I sing the fourth verse, which was added in after 1967. So you read the second verse, I'll read the third. We have returned to the cisterns, to the market, and to the square. A shofar calls out on the Temple Mount in the old city. And in the caves in the rock, thousands of suns shine. We will once again descend to the Dead Sea by way of Jericho. But then the question on top of that, especially in light of what Rabbi Dan just said, is Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, Jerusalem of gold, V'shel Nechoshet V'shel Or, of bronze and of light. Halo lechol shiraich ani kinor. Am I not a harp for all your songs? Are we meant to be a harp and celebrating and singing in joy, or are we meant to be stirring up trouble? So, just wanted to get that in the air before we sing, at least just the first verse, to kind of give you an idea of why it starts off empty. And those are usually the verses that you hear, is that the first verse, maybe the second verse, but it's not until the very end where we get this a comeback to Jerusalem, this beautification that happens only at the very end. So I wanted to make sure that we at least looked at it. אוויר הרים צלול כיין וריח אורנים נישא ברוח הארבעים עם כל פעמונים וברדמת אילן ואבן שבויה בחלומה העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. Let's do that chorus just one more time. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור.
Beautifully done. We'll rise for Kiddush on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam horei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'atzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'vratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen. L'chaim.
Chaim.
Motzi. This week I feel good, so I can do this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
If you're with us here, come next door. Well, Saturday next door. Come into the room. Food, good company. Yasher koach again to Julian Cantor. Excellent job. Excellent job.